Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cosmere Connections. We're a bunch of book-loving nerds trying to find the secrets of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere as we reread the entirety of its story from Book 1 to Book 16 billion. Today, we are joined by Swiggity Swoo.
The swiggityest, the swooiest.
We've got John.
He was never a good leader.
Kay is here as well.
Hey, how's it going?
And I'm ReaderWarrior. And today, we're covering Mistborn, The Well of Ascension, Part 4, Knives, Chapters 39 to 43.
Yeah.
Whew. These are getting long.
Well, 16 billion's a lot of books.
That's true. We'll get there one day. Anything before we just jump right in?
I say we just jump right in.
Alrighty.
John, the floor is yours.
Alright, so, chapter 39. I know your argument. We speak of the anticipation, of things foretold, of promises made by our greatest prophets of old. Of course the hero of ages will fit the prophecies. He will fit them perfectly. That's the idea. Bum, bum, bum. Excuse me. Straff and Zane are kind of walking through their encamped army, and they're talking about how Zane failed to kill Vin and how Straff still remembers her touch on his emotions and how much those Allomancers really cost Straff to make and how much work it was, even if it was enjoyable work, because he's a dirty, dirty man.
Horrible thing.
Zane mutters to himself a little bit. We'll get there, just relax. Zane mutters to himself a little bit, and Straff kind of thinks about how crazy he is and stuff. Penrod shows up, of all people, and we find out that he is selling the city out to Straff for a few titles and stuff like that for the merchant class that has developed under Elend.
That's why they flipped.
Correct. Straff still thinks the Atium is in Luthadel, and he agrees to maybe, possibly let Penrod keep his crown as a vassal king if he delivers the Atium. They part ways, and Zane lets slip that he has poisoned Straff yet again. Then, when he knows to look, he kind of notices, oh no, there's a weakness in me, and he rushes back to get his healing potion. And that's pretty much the chapter. Very short one, which is why I took this one, because it's very short. But it's also why I took 2 chapters, because this one was really short. So, but yeah, this one is very, very brief and to the point, and it's kind of just the fallout from the politics of the election that Elend failed to win.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I almost wish we could have fit this in with the last episode, because it is very much the stinger at the end of that election. Oh, it turns out Penrod was working with Straff.
And the merchants were all promised the titles, which was the same day they were getting was set,
but nobody trusts Set because he's a foreigner and Straff is one of us, as Penrod describes him, a Luthadel nobleman.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he points out that, no, you don't trust me either. And Penrod's like, no, maybe not, but I do know you. So.
The evil you know, the demon you know. Is it the devil you know? Is better than the devil you don't.
Yes, there you go.
The Koloss you know is as dangerous as the Koloss you don't, and they'll both kill you.
Well said, human.
I will eat you.
My only
Literally.
the only note that you didn't bring up was the fact that it was cool seeing Zane's insanity from another point of view. We don't see Zane that often, and when we do, it's typically from Vin's point of view, and she hasn't said anything about it, or Zane's point of view, in which we just hear it from him.
Right, well, because when it's Zane's POV, we actually get the dialogue that he's hearing from God.
Yeah.
And
but
he doesn't have, God doesn't tell him to kill Vin, so Vin never sees him talk to himself.
But it's nice seeing it from Straff. I like seeing, oh, he really is insane.
Yeah, it makes the he's insane accusation that everybody makes come to a real fine point.
Yeah, because, like, that's what he's struggling with from his perspective, but it's like, you know, when Straff just lays it out, he's like, yeah, he just talks to himself sometimes. And, like, that's how it comes off to other people, you know? You almost feel bad for him when it's his POV. But
Yeah, almost.
if you just knew Zane, if he was just a guy that you knew, like, yeah, he would just be, like, talking to himself randomly.
Yeah, which would be weird.
You guys don't do that? No, they don't. Yes, they do. Shut up.
Oh, I do. Frequently.
I will often talk myself through processes.
I think
But
we
yeah.
all, like, everybody talks
I think
to
that's
themselves when they're alone.
everybody does it, but few people have conversations with themselves.
Oh, I have conversations with myself. I just don't recognize me talking to myself as the voice of God telling me to murder
Right,
people.
you're not having a conversation with another person that lives in your head.
No. If I do, I'm like, this is just what I think that person is saying.
Yes, but that's slightly different.
Yeah, it's
that's like rehearsing a
imagination.
conversation versus...
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not nuts, I promise. Well, maybe a little, but
Another
We
thing,
did promise
I can't-
16 billion books.
I can't speak for the rest of these
Sorry.
people.
Well, maybe Reader is, but you know, the rest of us.
I'll be doing this with a beard, white hair, like, I am Reader. I can't remember where I am. Cosmere!
Okay.
we're gonna have insanity like the Heralds.
Oh, man.
Let's focus back in
On this one.
on Mistborn. And
Bringing
not
it
on
back.
our possible insanity in the future.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a
Anything
good
else for this
segue.
chapter?
Zane had to die. That's how it ends. I kind of like that. It's just like that. After this conversation, Straff finally decides, like, yeah, this guy's too much of a liability.
Yeah, he kind of...
He's
He's like,
outfilling
"Alright."
his usefulness.
He's gone from dangerous tool to just plain dangerous.
Like,
Can't deal with that.
which is like kind of similar to the Koloss in a way. It's just like this force that these arrogant men thought they could control, and now they see the error of their ways. I love
Well, the
that.
thing is, Straff is at least smart enough to recognize I can't control Zane. Yostis is an idiot.
We'll get to that later.
Yes, we'll get to that in my chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're
then-
Which I would
assuming
like
you
to-
read with us.
Which I would like to go on the record as saying that Reader has more than earned that chapter.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I was gonna say there's just one more layer of it with Elend and Vin of like, obviously their relationship is different because they're in love, but it's similar in a way of just like she's this powerful force of violence, and he's trying to like keep her contained in a way.
Anything
Well-
else for 39? Sorry.
No.
No,
That
I
was
think
it.
we're good.
Yeah, I think we should move on.
I agree.
Okay. 40! Also John.
Hey, welcome back! And yet,
It's been so
something...
long.
Right? So the epigraph. And yet, something about all this seemed so convenient. It felt almost as if we constructed a hero to fit our prophecies, rather than allowing one to arise naturally. This was the worry I had, that the thing that should have given me pause when my brethren came to me, finally willing to believe. So we're starting to see that things are fishy back in ancient times.
Classic Scadro is confusing.
Well, where are your flying ships? No. So, Elend is reading next to Vin when she finally wakes up. He tells her about how Penrod won and explains how he could have saved them from Set if he had just backed Penrod and choked down his ego a little bit and thought about the people and not himself. Which she kind of is like, well, that's silly. You're the better person. You should do that. You know, you should have been king. And eventually she touches him, and he flinches just a little bit. You know, probably not even enough that a normal person would have noticed, but Vin being
Paranoid
Vin,
and
notices immediately and kind of dies a little bit inside.
a poor little girl.
He's seen the monster I really am, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think she's just reading. She's like reading too much into it, you know. Like Ellen's been through a lot today.
Yeah,
yes, but she's also not wrong. Like, anybody would flinch after seeing that. Like, it's gonna take you a minute to kind of like remember.
This
Oh
lady
yeah, this
just
is the person that I have known.
headcanoned a lady. Headcanon a guy.
Headcanon someone.
I know, but she shouldn't take it so personally, you know.
But
No,
she's
that's
she's just very sensitive.
Right, she's a
And-
teenage girl. You know, a
Yeah.
teenager in general. Like,
She's 19.
It also shows Zane's manipulation and how he's all this time he's been saying you're nothing but a tool.
we're not
They
there
don't
yet.
know.
We're not there yet.
No, he's been saying this.
I mean, he has, but like, slow your
I'm
roll. It's
remaining,
coming.
I know. I'm remaining spoiler free, but I'm
No,
just
but-
saying this is partially because of Zane, and he's been saying Elend doesn't know what it's like to be Mistborn. If he saw the real you, he would abandon you. And Vin, that's what Vin's looking out for, and she thinks she sees it.
Well, yeah. Yes. But suddenly she thinks of Orsur, who was injured in her defense, attacking someone, knocking them away, you know, before they could attack Vin, and she's like, oh god, no, what happened? And Elend tells her, oh, he's fine, he's digesting a new body, and she relaxes a little bit, but she kind of thinks about, like, he risked his life, he risked breaching his contract to save me, like, I should be more worried about him, and she's kind of like freaking out about Orsur a little bit. Eventually, she drinks the broth that Sazed had left for her, full of sleepy time drugs. And Elend lets her go back to sleep. When she wakes up again, she thinks she sees Elend standing in the shadows, but it turns out to be Zane. He tells her the assassins were from Set, and he recognizes them from Set's entourage, and then she goes, that's where I saw him. And they have that eureka, or she has that little eureka moment. They talk a little bit, and Zane talks about how Elend could never, this is what I was talking about, you know, Elend could never understand, and he'll always be a little bit afraid and all of those things, and it, you know, really kind of just pinning her emotions that she's feeling, because I'm sure he can read them on her face. Like, pins them in her mind, and she gets kind of stuck on them even more. But finally, Zane, after kind of talking her through how he's glad that Elend survived and these other things, which he probably made up, just to kind of lull her into a sense of trust, I guess, in him. He gives her a lump of Atium and tells her to keep herself safe. When she wakes up again, she's frustrated at being laid up and having to spend time healing, and Orsur comes in another dog's body, and he talks about wanting to explore the advantages of those bones for a while before going back to being a human. They discuss the contract and how Kandra didn't exist before the Ascension, and that they were made by the Lord Ruler, and they kind of pontificate about how he was the father and how they don't have to like everything he did even though he's their father. And they discuss a little bit about how the Lord Ruler kind of built in a way to control the Kandra, and Orsur kind of is tiptoeing through the truth of the whole thing, kind of leading Vin, and Vin kind of thinks about it, and she's like, well, you can't kill a Kandra with allomancy, but maybe you can play with their emotions a little bit. So she pokes him with I think it was brass to soothe him.
Yeah, because her default is usually soothing.
Right. Yeah, because they hardly ever riot. It's really just Oriane who does the rioting. But anyway.
It was also Vin's first power.
True. But anyway, the soothing doesn't seem to affect him, so she kind of puts a little more into it, and eventually she flares it, and he doesn't even seem to notice. And finally she's like, all right, well, what if I do this? And then smashes that Duralumin button while she soothes him, and he has a freaking seizure. And she's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And he's like, what you meant doesn't matter. It's done now. Please never do that again. And cut.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't like this chapter. Like, I don't like that part. It just makes me so uncomfortable. Because I like Orsur. And I feel bad for him. And I'm like, Vin, what are you doing?
It is weird how that happens, though.
I mean, to be fair, who would ever expect that using emotional elements it would cause someone to have a physical grand mal seizure?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that would be possible. If an Allomancer could, hypothetically, make a guy have a heart attack.
Like a rioter?
Like a rioter, because there's got to be some level of chemistry to it, right? Because you're feeling these emotions, therefore the brain chemistry is happening, right? So could you force that chemistry to cause? I swear the dog's breaking in right. To cause like a heart attack.
Maybe if you literally scared them to death and amplified their sense of fear.
I think absolutely you could under the right circumstances.
Yeah, or maybe if you get like a group of rioters together and just be like, terror.
I was thinking like rioters would be the worst people ever if they were real. Like,
okay,
wow, that's
yourself.
It's all rioters.
Yeah, I'm
Lucy,
sorry.
I'm sorry,
but I just thought, oh, cute doggy. I just thought about it, like somebody who has the ability to just make you immediately enraged. Like,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Suicide by Allomancer. You just make them riot you into a state of rage, and then you just go fight like a Mack truck or something. I'm gonna take you down, and then you get stampeded by a cow.
Okay, but on the other hand, what if police forces hire soothers and make a person just like not want to do violence, and like put the gun down and they make them want to obey or something?
I mean, that's essentially what the Lord Ruler did.
Touche.
You took it to another level, though, of like soothing all the time. Like, you don't even want to pick up the gun.
You don't even want to fight. You don't even want to think about
it.
Okay, but section by section, I loved seeing Elend in his old clothes. He was no longer king, so he's back in his stuff. But I still imagine him sitting perfectly straight. He doesn't have the posture of his nobleman age anymore. Like it's the reverse
of
what
the man, not the clothing.
Yeah, it's like how when he originally put on the white uniform, he didn't have the composure for it, or the posture. Now it's the opposite.
And he did say that like his old clothing like doesn't fit right anymore. Like it doesn't feel like.
Yeah, Vin mentions how she can see that his clothes don't fit him correctly because of his training with the staff and the way he holds himself, and all these things that he's been doing has changed him physically as well as socially.
Mm-hmm. I've got a quick question on how is Vin able to burn pewter at that moment?
What do you mean?
There's a comment about Vin burning pewter when she's talking to Elend.
She burns pewter instinctively.
Yes, but she just used it with Duralumin.
No, so they would have given her pewter to help her heal faster.
Like when the Inquisitor got her.
Yeah.
Okay, I was because there was also the warning of you shouldn't have metals swallowed while you're sleeping, which that also applies.
Yeah, but because they were trying to help her heal, burning pewter helps her body heal faster.
Mm-hmm. And presumably that was in some of the sleepy time concoction that Sazed feeds her as well.
That was my next point, is that Vin happily accepts poison as it's long from a friend.
Well, it's not poison, it's medicine. It's a drug. It's a knockout drug. But
There's a
like
thin line between poison and medicine.
sometimes, yes, often.
Like
even.
we had Straff comment in the last chapter. Oh, you've got a spy that's working as a maid. Could you slip something into her stew? And then we've got Saza. I filled your stew up with so much drugs. This will knock you out.
All the drugs.
I thought it was funny that he warned Elend not to taste it because it would knock him out for like 2 months.
Yeah.
That is a good connection, man. That's awesome.
Especially
when we first leave in, and she's just like so suspicious of anything.
She has Kelsier shake the vial, and now she's like, "Did Sazin put drugs in this?" Yes. Okay.
I trust him.
Night, zonk.
In the second point of view, or the second section, you, John, had brought up before. Is there a way to calculate how much Atium is worth? And it seems to me that there is a way to calculate it based upon how much you can burn, possibly. Because we see that that bead of Atium is worth like 200,000 boxings or something, and will last 2 full minutes.
Right.
So
yeah, we could probably get a rough estimate based on that.
Yeah. I thought you would enjoy that. And then a whole bunch of Orsier stuff. Like, who bought him the new body?
Elend. Elend got him the new body. Elend said that.
Elend said
he got Orser a new body, and that Orser was digesting his new body.
I missed he must have bought him a new one.
I think he said he went in and got him a new body, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was about it.
But we learned something very important about Kandra today.
And that Orsier is way older than we think.
Right.
Yeah.
But not so old as the Ascension.
No.
They were born... The Kandra were made 200 years. Ascension.
No. The Kandra were forgotten about 200 years after the Ascension.
Ah, touche. Touche.
Yeah, they would have had to have been born, like, within minutes of the Ascension. Oh. Sorry, that was a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah. Well, Vin does say something along that lines, that at some point, Rorschach had supreme power, but only for a bit. And then he became the most powerful Allomancer ever. Because Allomancy does not allow you to create new life.
Right.
At least not from what we've seen.
Well, we'll come back to that in the spoiler section.
Yes.
Because there's plenty of speculation to be done there.
Yes. Anything else for 40?
I tried to look it up, and nobody knows how much a boxing is worth in US dollars.
No, they never tell us how much like a loaf of bread costs or anything even remotely like that.
Apparently that's in a base 16 system instead of a base 10 system like we have, though. So it would be extremely hard to calculate.
Nah, you could just plug that into most computers and switch it over. Base 16 is hexadecimal, so computers do that all the time.
True.
But that's interesting. I never knew that it was base 16 counting.
It makes
That's what somebody said on Reddit.
It does. It makes a strange kind of sense, but...
It makes sense. It's like on... Oh, this is slightly spoilerish. But on Roshar, the weeks are 10 days.
Right.
Everything's in tens on Roshar. Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next chapter?
I just wanted to say, if you're like new to the Cosmere, the number 16 is of some significance, and the number 10 is of some significance in Stormlight. So that's why we brought that up.
Yeah. We're not just randomly commenting numbers.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's so important, but it does just come up a lot.
Okay. So, chapter 41. I guess I'll read the epigraph, because I guess we're doing that now. After that, I began to see other problems. So, in this chapter, it starts with Sazed and Tyndall are in his rooms doing a bunch of research and reading through the Kwaan's. They're doing research. They're looking up information. They're doing lots of research in their metal mines. They're doing lots of research. So,
is that what you kids are calling it these days?
These flirts.
and they're flirting in between.
Study.
Being cute. Being cute. So, as they are like talking through things that don't really make a whole lot of sense with what Kwaan is saying in his writings, where it seems like he's contradicting himself sometimes. For example, it's like Kwaan sent Rashik to mislead or even kill Elendi, but Kwaan did this because he feared what would happen if Elendi took the Well's power for himself. But like, why would he send Rashik then?
Because Rashek obviously wasn't
that-
a good enough person.
If he knows Rashik really well, as it says that he does, why would he send Rashik to go to the well? Like, even though he knows that Elendi is a good person, and for what it says that Elendi would do what is right. So, there's a little bit of weird.
It's like sending an alcoholic to stop another alcoholic at Oktoberfest.
Yeah, it's like
Roast.
it's like what's going on here? So they're wondering about that and about how like Kwaan has written several times about how he's feared the deepness, but then he like sends Rashik to go foil their one chance of like stopping the deepness. Like, does that make a lot of sense? Like, what's going on here? There are a bunch of different contradictions. So they're thinking like something dramatic must have happened that would have caused Kwaan to want to turn against Elendi. So they continue to study and talk and look up. They're looking up for more information about in their copper mines about the pre-ascension times and the prophecy and everything.
The prophecy is fulfilled.
Sayzid is kind of just looking at Tyndall and he's like, gosh, she's wonderful. You know?
Aww.
Aww.
He's thinking about, like, how wonderful it is, like, spending all this time, like, reading with her and, like, studying with her. Like, my heart. Sweet. Then we switch over to Elend's point of view. So Elend has been kind of just wandering through the hallways, pacing, trying to like figure out what he's supposed to be doing because he's like worried that should have done more for everyone, and he's trying to figure out like where did he go wrong, and he's thinking about the Koloss and what's going on with the city. And essentially he's still like thinking like a king even though he's not king anymore. And he wishes that he could kind of like do more to help. And he talks to Demu a little bit and he reinforces that he's going to go to Demu's next rally for the Survivor. Because he said he was going to. Even though he didn't end up getting the kingship, he's still going to follow through and participate in the Church of the Survivor because he said that he was going to.
Because Alan's a good
He
man.
doesn't. Sorry. What was that, Swiggity?
I just said Alan's a good man.
Yes, he is. I was going to say, he never calls it the church, he always calls it your group, your gathering. He never refers to it as a religion.
Yeah. And he's just trying to think. He's like, this should be easier for me because I'm not king anymore. But he's a good person, so he's still like worried about what's going on in the city. And he's thinking about like what would Min do in this situation? How would she have handled it? And that's when he thinks like she wouldn't have just been like wandering around like brooding, like she would do something about it. So this is when he decides to go to a particular set of rooms. And he knocks on the door, and he goes in, and it's Sazed and Tindwell's room. Sazed and Tindwell are sitting, holding hands, looking
Being all
through their copper
cute.
mines, being all cute. And it takes a second, and then they both come to, and they realize that Elend is there. And so Elend is there to go ask for advice, essentially, on what to do. And Tindwell, as she is, insults Elend. Because that's just how their relationship is.
It's kind of her job.
And
I
it's
just love how he reads her like a book, though.
Yeah.
He does. Well, he's used to it by now.
Yeah.
And he's like, Hazen tries to like defend him, and he's like, no, it's fine. Like, she's just trying to see if like I've gone back to being spineless, like in my previous level of insultability, is what he says. So, and he asks if the moment that when he told them about the obscure bit of text that allowed the other assemblymen to change their votes, if he should have done that or not. And Seiza is kind of like, no, you shouldn't have done that because that's not who you are.
I'm curious, though.
like-
What do you guys think? Should he have done it? Like, realistically?
It wouldn't have been,
Realistically, yes.
but it wouldn't have been true to his character and who he is.
And that's the point, is that for anybody else, they would have done it. Even with the best intentions, they would have bended the rules.
I am going to say that Elend was correct in his actions, but the reason for that is not manifest in this book.
So is that like
I
a
think-
LAFO?
We can come back to it in the spoiler section if you want.
Read and find
I
out?
think
Okay.
he did the best. He chose his option.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the thing. He chose his option. And we'll see where that option lands him, but would things be a lot smoother right now if he did it? Probably. But he stuck to his morals, and that is a good thing.
Well, yeah, I think so too. Because let's say he had, not said anything and he had been voted in as king. Let's just kind of, like, I'm trying to think of how that would have played out. The assassination attempt probably still would have happened.
Well, it would have. The assassination attempt was before the vote, so we can't talk about that because that's all spoiler into what comes next.
Right. All right, so
I
we'll
think the
move
only-
on then. But
The only thing we could say is probably Vin's attack on Set's home probably would not have happened.
what? I can't
Yeah.
figure out why that would be.
Because she would have wanted Ellen to give it, and Ellen wouldn't have told her that. Ellen probably would have tried to make peace with Set. Because we see him in
Right.
my chapter, he realizes that Set's basically aligned them with him, but without doing so publicly.
Cool.
So, I've got I'm almost to the end of this chapter, so
Sorry to cut you off.
you're good. So, Elend continues to talk to them, and he essentially is asking, like, Tintwell, what should I do? She tells him, like, I am not here to tell you what to do. I am here to give you, like, to give you knowledge of what men have done in the past who have been in your place. And that they were people who were trusted by their people, and they deserved that trust. And Elend kind of decides in himself about what he's going to do, and he decides that he's not going to go back to the way that he was before.
Woo.
And that he is going to go. He goes to his closet, and he changes back into his clothing, back into his white outfit.
Nice.
And that is where the chapter ends.
Yeah.
Just like Spider-Man 2.
I had a quick... This one might bring us for a little bit. So, John, you corrected me before that the Kandra disappeared around 200 post-Ascension.
No. The Lord Ruler forgot about the Kandra about 200 years after his ascension.
Okay, yes. They went into hiding. That was how Orsier put it.
Sort of. So
Okay.
the Kandra, when the Lord Ruler created the Kandra, he kind of played with them for a couple of centuries and gave them direction, and then he sort of ignored them. So the Kandra tried to integrate themselves into normal society. That didn't work, so they retreated from society and came up with the contract.
Okay. So the contract was founded somewhere around 200-ish, and their whole,
Somewhere in
we've
that.
got to hide.
No, it was founded around 300-ish.
Okay, well, the whole we've got to hide and we got to come up with a plan was around it. What's weird is the Keepers were also formed around 200. And that's what we see in Kay's chapter.
That is weird. Do you think there's a connection there, or is it just a coincidence?
There's always another connection.
There's a Cosmere connection.
Ooh.
I don't know if we can say anything spoiler or not, if there's a direct causation, but most likely, probably an entire species going into hiding. And they said a lot of the religions were already destroyed. Maybe there was a thinking of, shoot, nothing is going to stay with the Lord Ruler. He can wipe out an entire species. We just saw the Kandra disappear. Religions have been getting deleted left and right. We should found in order to keep this information safe.
That must have been a scary period on Scadrial.
I'm just going to say, for all of those who have not read ahead, put a little pin in that idea. Keep that in the back of your brain. That's going to be important later. Foreshadowing.
And then I really love how Sazed believes in all of his religions. Like 100%. Because what did he have? Like a few hundred of them?
He's
can't
got
remember.
like
300,
382.
300
Change.
some odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
And doesn't Elend
He had an
even
exact
call out-
number at some point. But 100%, at least some of them contradict each other. But
Yeah.
Sazed still believes in everyone.
Well, he believes in the truth that they have to offer.
Yeah. But
to
I
be,
still love
pedantic about it.
that aspect of it. And how, compared to the real world, well, we're fighting over what does this exact line in the Bible mean? Or where does that relate to what it meant in that time period versus what it actually is currently? It could even be said about, like, the Constitution and stuff. But, like, Sazed believes in all of it, and that it all has a greater purpose beyond what they're specifically trying to teach. And I just love that. I love that with all their flaws and all of their gears that don't mesh up together correctly, Sazed still believes in a grand plan.
I do too, man. And it's just like Elend believing in his laws. You know, he could have easily substituted his faith for what seemed to be the right choice to win, and instead he believed in what he believed in. And you know, two sides of the same coin in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. And on the saddening side, it kind of hurts that as Vin wonders what Elend thinks of her, Elend is wondering, will she think less of me for not being king, for letting this happen?
I was gonna say that's kind of sad. Like, if Vin follows her beliefs, it has kind of a different ring to it. You know, she's constantly fighting this paranoia that she has, which is in her way kind of like following that truth faith of her own. Like, even though she's constantly traumatized by her past, like, she knows this truth that she trusts in Elend and she loves him.
It's kind of funny because the way she acts towards him sometimes, it's like she doesn't know him, even though they know each other pretty intimately. She's putting herself in his place and acting as though he would act like her.
Yeah. Or how
It's
she's
just,
used to.
well, that's what she would do. And,
Mhm.
you know, they comment on that. It's like, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Choo choo.
What is this, Ohio?
Just because,
Uh-huh.
anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, but they have some pretty crazy relationship stuff that we need to unpack someday.
Yeah. Anything else for 41 then?
Nope, sorry.
All right, reader,
Okay.
go for it.
Yeah.
You've been so patient.
The best Elend chapter so far. Some of you may know of my fabled memory. It is true, I need not a ferrochemist's mental mind to memorize a sheet of words in an instant. Instinct. Great. Off to a great start. Elend, no longer in charge but taking charge, does his best to help with the upcoming winter. He plans to move the Ska back to their hovels where it will be warm and destroy mansions for wood with the help of Garadel, who we met at the end of Final Empire, who is one of the people who Vin spoke to. It's like, I know you. You're the Ska worker. And he tore off his patch. And
You were the guard. You were the palace guard at Creedic Shaw.
Elend acknowledges he's acting as a citizen as Penrod works to surrender the city to Strath. So nice to know people know about that. Felt the Spy, also an old character from the Final Empire, has been working on Who Poisoned the Well with a rioter, which is a smart idea. We were thinking of that earlier. And they found the river to be the source with its gates pried open. Elend tells them to send guards and wonders if he would be useful finding the Kandra spy. Demu brings forth Larn, who says he's seen the Inquisitor in the center square. Demu says that there have been others spotted near Creedic Shaw as well. And that's kind of terrifying because we only know one of them, and he would have shown himself by now. The other ones aren't friendly. Elend turns his focus back to his workers and starts splitting them up. That almost read spiriting it up. I really got to fix my handwriting. Ham shows up commenting on his uniform and asks what he'll do if Set's army attacks. Elend realizes that him hiding in the keep is equivalent to him joining them, a desperate move. Then he asks how insane Ham was feeling. Anything for this part?
I know when I'm hanging out with my buddies, the first thing I want to hear them ask is how crazy I'm feeling today. That's how you know some crazy shit's gonna go down.
Exactly.
Literally.
How crazy are you feeling today? Absolutely insane.
Absolutely. It's when you put a group of guys together, it doesn't matter how smart they are, they all drop to the lowest common denominator.
True story.
Usually lower than that, especially if there's alcohol involved.
Oh, absolutely. But it doesn't matter if it's like 5 nerds and an idiot, they will all become the idiot.
Correct.
What about Ham's uniform?
Oh, how he's a pewter thug.
He's got a shirt on now. Because
He
it's
still's
cold.
ripping off those sleeves, though.
Ham, your ripped sleeves are your uniform. It's shows what you're about.
Which is a nice little visual cue on who might be a thug.
It's way more elegantly put in the book, but that's basically the general sense of it, right? It's like what you wear kind of it doesn't define you as a person, but it's what you're choosing to display. That's always been like a big theme in these books.
It sounds like something Breeze would say, to be honest.
I thought that too. But then
it kind of does.
It segues nicely to talking about how Ham has changed and he's kind of sad now. Mm-hmm. Old Ham would have liked to debate that all day.
Right.
True. With the help of Granny Hilde, how to pronounce that, Ham escorts Elend to one of the pass walls that was mentioned. Ham recounts his usage of it, and Elend promises not to shut it down. Elend, alone, but with a horse, makes his way to the Koloss camp and demands they take him to Yastes. One takes him in, and Elend watches how they act, commenting on their violence and lack of breeding. Elend wonders about the pouches and sees others in clothes, which is brand new. The Koloss say they are human. They will take their city and kill them all. A fight breaks out, and the winner takes the coin pouch. Well, we later find out it's an actual coin pouch. Elend reaches the human soldiers and gives them his horse. After a glare, they allow him in, as well as with Yastes' permission. They comment on each other's current looks and how it used to be. Yastes calls himself righteous, as Elend calls him a tyrant. Yastes snaps, telling Elend what happened in the southern dominance and his family. Elend tries to apologize, but Yastes gets angry. He tries to capture Elend, but he says he is no longer king, but he still wants to save Luthadel. Yastes says that he can control the Koloss and waves for his guards. And then the coolest scenes ever. Elend attacks his old friend, owning him completely, and stabs him into the shoulder.
John,
this is not the Elend we used to know. This Elend is awesome.
John can no longer
Where did this come from?
John is no longer allowed to say Elend is a weenie.
Weenie card revoked.
No, a weenie doesn't do that.
No,
that's crazy.
Don't
Where
worry,
did that come from?
It gets better.
Oh, I know.
Elend says that he won't kill him
wait,
yet.
There's more.
And he says he should march the Koloss somewhere else. Then, using Yastes as a hostage. That's just Ree's weird. He makes his way past the dozen guards, even though there used to be more, and into the Koloss camp. Leaving Yastes behind, Elend orders a new Koloss to take him back. On the way, Elend attacks a shorter Koloss, still a Koloss, with a knife. Even though it was stronger, Elend used Vin's teachings about knives and took it down with a stab to the eye.
Proving that Vin's not the only one who can put out an eyeball.
Touche.
So
Also,
bad.
knives. The part title, Knives.
We are the knives, Vin.
Exactly. So,
Although it's certainly not what that is referring to, but yes, good connection.
No.
But we see Elend just attack his old friend, stab him in the shoulder, and then 5 seconds later, he's going to take on the most dangerous creature we have ever seen.
I just love that, like, halfway through that fight, he's like, this was a bad idea. I was too hyped up on adrenaline to start this fight. Why did I do this?
Clearly, the thrill exists on Scadrial in some form.
It reminds me of that like scene from Anchorman. I've made a terrible mistake. When he jumps into the bear cage.
And then, of course, what happens when it's all said and done?
The other Koloss watch, waiting until Elend says it hate his horse, and they accept this and continue their trek back.
What?
That's so good.
You gotta have a reason.
You
gotta have a reason.
It's like he understands them now.
I hated him. Okay. He was a horrible leader. Okay. You gotta have a good reason for killing somebody. He walked in front of me.
My horse is a good one.
You gotta
saving that horse for later.
The language of the land.
I think any reason is a good reason for Koloss to kill people.
I mean, it just has to be there, right? Like that's all they're really worried about. Like,
yeah,
it's just got to be it. It's just got to be there.
And I just realized one of the things Kelsier said was, I once saw a Ska get killed for blinking inappropriately by nobles. We see a kind of line between nobles and Koloss here. Nobles do it with reason, though. Like, they hate these people. The Koloss don't think. They're just like, oh, he blinked. That's an act of aggression. I'm going to fight him. But somehow that's better than what the nobles were doing.
But it all comes back to money.
Yup. Elend takes his knife, its sword, and pouch, and he finds out that it is a literal coin pouch, and Yastis is paying the Koloss.
Dirty, dirty money. Which earlier, like, there was one line about some fake coins, and Elend was like, oh, I don't have time for this. I gotta worry about the assembly. And I was like, what is that about? I can't remember what that's referring to. And it turns out it was this.
Brandon,
wait a second. Actually, I think that's a spoiler.
That is a spoiler, but it's
a minor one.
It's a very minor.
We'll
allow it.
Know. Okay.
We'll allow it. By decree of the council.
Illumini Patriot Sealy.
Spiritus Sanctus, Omnibus, Omnibus, Lorem Ipsum Dollar Suit.
This is not a spoiler.
But
I would like to point out that as he's going in, Elend is thinking to himself about the books that he has read about Koloss and how they work and how you can control their population, kinda, by just taking away some of their swords or giving them more swords.
Mm-hmm.
Which is definitely funny.
You plant a sword into the ground and it sprouts a Koloss.
That's not accurate. Don't write that down. That's not real.
Yeah. What are you doing? Erasing canning of fish. That's a West Wing reference, by the way.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you did. That warms my heart.
Of course. Shoot, I had another comment. I can't remember what it was about anymore.
I'm trying to think if the swords is some like political allegory for something, but I can't think of anything.
Probably just like the fact I killed a Koloss and then Elend just picks up its sword, puts it over the shoulder, and he's like, yeah, this is mine now.
I mean, like you do.
I mean, that's how the Koloss work. If you kill someone, then you get their sword and you get their pouches.
It's like Elden Ring.
But Elend, normal person, no powers, took on a Koloss and won.
Right? He's like a primitive James freaking Bond. Like, what happened here? Where did this come from?
It was there the whole time.
Koloss.
It was still a Koloss. If I fight a bear, it's still a bear.
I like you too much for Big Cliff.
He's still dumb for going down there, but it was badass.
Oh yeah.
We'll give him a pass for the rule of cool.
I mean, this is definitely the chapter where Elend goes from being like a dude to being like a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And it is also foreshadowing, dear watchers and listeners, foreshadowing. The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come.
As always. Should we get to it then?
It was so good.
Yeah, let's get to it. Swiggity.
Yes.
Chapter 43. The others call me mad. As I have said, that may be true. That's a sweet epigraph for this chapter.
Yeah.
Because it's all about Zane being freaking crazy, killing a bunch of people.
Zane in the membrane. Sorry. Haven't done that in a couple episodes. I need to get it on my system.
In the Zane.
And even Vin, in a sense. Vin goes a little bit crazy here.
Yeah, Vin goes off the freaking rails in this episode of Mistborn.
A Mistborn Unchained.
This would be one. I was
Mistborn
thinking that
Unhinged.
earlier. Unhinged. Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm just gonna really quick read through my summary here.
Okay.
Because not a lot happens, but I did write it out. Vin finds out Elend went to the Koloss camp. As she watches over Elend, Zane arrives and says Damu is a spy. He tells Vin that Set orchestrated the assassination attempt in order to remove Penrod and Elend from the picture. Apparently then Straff was supposed to attack and Set would have saved the city. Feeling like Elend doesn't need her and traumatized that he was in so much danger, Vin's very vulnerable to manipulation. She thinks if Elend won't be reasonable and stay out of danger, then she'll have to make sure the threats against him were removed. So Zane says if they just kill Set, someone else will take his place, so they have to attack so hard that no one will dare stand against them in the future. Set and Streff wouldn't have lasted a single night without feeling Kelsier's knife. Oh yeah, that was a really cool line. Vin is ruminating on Zane asks what would have Kelsier done, and that was what Vin thinks. Yeah, if they had came to the city, Kelsier would have taken care of them immediately.
Yeah.
So we get a Welland POV, not to be confused with Welland from the Final Empire.
I was gonna say it's Wallen's cousin.
We get Walland, Welland, and Wallen.
Not to mention Melland and Elend.
So for this next section, if you read the book, you could summarize it basically as a big fight scene. But
Yes.
I wrote down some of my favorite things that happen, and it
Please
kind of
do.
reads a little bit like slam poetry at first.
Nice.
A hail of coins, shadows of death, ravens in the mist. They left behind the corpse of what had been 40 men. Vin suspects Set to be Mistborn, so she won't burn her Atium until she's against him. Vin and Zane both push on a coin between them, and the outward force blasts a whole bunch of guys in an area of effect style blast. Zane pushes against a large group of soldiers and transfers the force to a single soldier, pushing him through the front door of the tower. Vin takes out 10 Haze Killers, calling back to the Final Empire when Kelsier struggled against only 6.
Which, is this a testament to how OP Vin and Zane is, or how bad these Haze Killers are?
Oh, it's definitely Vin just being completely amazing at what she does.
Because this was ridiculous, this whole fight scene. Even at the one point when Zane flips out a coin and they both push on it, use their weights together to push against other people, that is awesome.
Yeah, that was so cool. I had to go back and reread that.
Mistborns working together, we've never seen this before.
We haven't.
I also wonder how they coordinated that, but I don't know. We'll move on.
How do they know it? It's just rule of cool, man. Rule of cool.
They talk about that off screen. Hey, let's do this.
I've been dying to try this double coin maneuver.
Let's go. You look. If I support myself, we're about the same weight. This will work.
They just have that. I think they talk about this in Naruto when two people are fighting each other. They have telepathic connection because they get so into it. So they keep lobbing a dead body in metal armor around. I thought that was an interesting detail.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Throw him at the door, throw him at the guards, throw him out a window.
It was all they
that
had.
poor guy. He has to go. His body is returned to his family, and they're just like, what the heck happened to Steve? You wouldn't believe it, man.
I know that one guy. And it was the one who got pushed through the door, too. So Vin jumps out a window and shoots up to the next floor. 50 Haze Killers are waiting for her. Set was apparently ready for the attack, but it's not enough. She burns Duralumin and pulls on the stained glass window frames, obliterating the outer layer of Haze Killers, and shoots into the
Which
air.
honestly, well, it sounds so cool.
Yes.
As she just shatters those stained glass windows.
I can just picture it happening in slow motion. And
Well, and with the stained glass windows going, it's very reminiscent of her fight against Lord Ruler.
But this time she's pulling it in.
Right, and she's in far more control of herself.
Mm-hmm.
the shattering of
so
the stained
cool.
glass has been a staple of the Mistborn Unchained. And
Yeah, kinda.
that every time there's a assassination or one of these crazy deadly scenes, that seems to be a staple of it.
We got to keep an eye out in Hero of Ages.
Watch for the stained glass; it's gonna explode.
Look out for the window.
So the next part's pretty brutal. Basically a bunch of those soldiers got stabbed with metal and glass, and she kind of pushes on that rubble and just sweeps the whole room clear. She moves up to the next floor and kills a bunch of men with a single belt buckle. She eventually gets to Set's chamber as Keep Hastings starts to burn. His son is there. I think his name's Goradon. Or so, I can't remember his name, actually, but it's not really important.
Whatever it is,
Like that.
it always reminds me of a sneeze.
And he's
Poor
like,
guy.
he's feebly trying to fight off Vin, and Set is like, don't, son, don't even bother. You can't fight that thing. And she comes to the realization that he is not Mistborn. And he confesses that they sent all the Allomancers they had to attack her back in Chapter 2. As she weeps, Zane rips away the wall dramatically with Allomancy.
Set is spelled with a C.
Yes.
Okay.
Jordan.
Njorden, that's it.
Norden.
Njorden! Excuse me.
I should have known. I went to high school with the Gnorden.
You did?
No.
The Gnorden
Oh,
gefluften in his kind diddle.
Calm
I
down,
went
Dr.
to high
Seuss.
school in the Eastern Dominance. So Zane kind of waltzes in, blood dripping from his arms, and he's disappointed in Vin for not killing Set. But surprisingly, spares Set. And that
This,
is
by the way-
chapter 43.
Sorry. This scene where she's like, fight me! That's what I was remembering a couple of chapters ago when I was just waiting for her to like get up on the table and pummel the crap out of him. This is what I was remembering. I
Yeah.
knew it happened, doggone it. I'm not crazy. My mom had me tested.
For this, though?
Uh, like, I don't know. Is the Cosmere a disease you can test for?
Probably not.
Yep, he's got world toperitis.
We need to put him down immediately. Who knows what he might do?
Uh-oh, it's the Threnody strain. We're all gonna die.
I love.
Better than
I had
Rosnar.
I didn't love it, but sorry, I don't know what words are spewing out of my mouth. Why didn't they kill Wallen? Wellen?
Oh, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he
well
did
in.
die.
No, so
Well,
it wasn't.
they
weren't
killed.
trying to kill everyone. They were just trying to like kill most of them. So they just like sent a haze of like coins, like, and they just happened to miss him.
Well, they killed their friend, his friends,
But again, it
who
wasn't like,
raised the alarm.
yeah, but he wasn't raising the alarm. He was just cowering.
True.
Minor spoiler. If you really don't want to hear it, plug your ears. 3, 2, 1. It says in the beginning of the next chapter that they killed somewhere around 30 to 40% of the people that were there. End spoiler.
Okay. Okay. That's not
Imagine,
a
yeah.
spoiler, really.
Imagine that.
Well, it's from a chapter we haven't discussed yet, so it's technically still a spoiler. But yes, they didn't kill everyone. They murdered an incredible number of people, but not everyone.
Yeah.
And it was a massacre.
I was confused on why the table was removed, because Vin goes into the dining hall and comments that the table is gone. Is there, like, a reason for that?
They were probably using the
Yes.
space for something else.
There is a
Yeah.
reason for that. I think.
Okay, I just don't see... okay, we gotta remove the table. We gotta put it into this elevator shaft, like
This is kind of a spoiler, maybe.
Herbie for the Love Bug.
Well, they definitely brought the table with them. Like, the table wasn't there.
Aren't there Ska?
So they put the elevator up the elevator shaft, brought it there, and then I guess Set was like, "This is too nice of a table. We gotta put it back down in the moving truck."
I think they talk about how there's Ska stealing furniture from the noble houses to burn. In
But-
the
There
winter.
was.
Yeah, but not the occupied ones, I don't think.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think Scott are getting up the elevator, stealing the table down the elevator.
Also, there's nothing that says the table had to go back down the elevator. It could be in a storage room on that floor somewhere.
Yeah.
True, but I'm imagining like a huge table. Like that's how I thought it was
But-
described. Like those
But it's-
ridiculously long tables, like in The Incredibles.
The thing
It's
about
not like there's a
the-
closet that can fit into.
But it has to be a table that had to have been Set had to have brought with him, because Elend makes a comment that they had already
Looted.
they had already looted all of the noble keeps for
True.
any sort of furniture, or anything of value. So there was nothing in that keep before Set moved in.
But
That's
So
why there's
where's
nothing on
the
the walls
table?
as well.
also,
So
what
it
kind of
had to have been
ska sees a table as a, prized possession? Like
No,
chairs, yes,
Ska
it's got
didn't take
cushion.
it. Elend
Ska
took
didn't?
it to sell it to raise
Ah,
funds for his kingdom,
okay.
or they took it to go burn it.
or that.
I thought ska were stealing. Sorry.
I
They
think
were
both
I don't know.
happened.
We don't need to get stuck on the table. It was just a weird note that caught my eye and just.
But
I
yeah,
would like
no,
it
it's
if we only
it
talked
had
about the table for the rest of the episode.
the table
What do
had
you
to
think it
have
was
been
made out of,
brought
folks?
by
Merch?
Set.
Gotcha.
No, wait, it was an ash tree. Duh.
Oh my god.
Y'all are terrible.
Let's table that
Um,
idea for now, and we'll come back to it.
Exactly. You beat me by a second with that one.
I'm just
I got the
gonna hang
teacher
up.
look.
Um,
I'm gonna hang up now. I'm gonna go away.
no, okay, I got a Cosmere one. So we've seen that Vin using Duralumin is able to basically hit the sound barrier. We saw that when she flew in to save Breeze, in a sense, or she was going ridiculously fast. Vin also uses Duralumin and Steel in this chapter, so I'm wondering, does the Duralumin disperse if you're pushing on multiple things?
That's
So if
what
I'm
I
pushing,
would guess.
so if I'm pushing two things and use Duralumin, would that be the half of the push than if I was pushing one thing?
I guess to know the answer to that, we would have to know if pushing on different things, well, just plain old burning steel, gave you a different effect. Like if you are able to push, with a force of 500 newtons, let's pick a random number, on one thing, can you only push with 250 newtons on two different things? With 100 on 5 things? If that's the case, then burning Duralumin would logically follow suit.
So,
If not, then you could burn steel and Duralumin and push on as many things as you wanted, which I think is the case, because look at how many horses she flung away when she saved Breeze.
yeah, and so I think it has to do with how where your anchors are, where the thing is that you're pushing on. So when you're only pushing on one thing, there's only one way for yourself to go or for the thing to go is in one direction, directly opposite. So you have that huge push that just shoves you in that direction immediately. When in this instance, when Ben is using the Duralumin push, she's pushing on a lot of different things, so that's keeping her from moving as much.
Gotcha.
The other thing I've always wondered too is if you let's say you take a regular vial of steel and there's 10 grams of steel shaved up in there, and you burn Duralumin and you get X effect. Well, what if you were to swallow a steel ball bearing that weighs 50 grams? Do you get 5 times as much power because you burned 5 times as much steel?
I'd like to think so.
I'd like to think so too, but we really don't have anything that
Those
now maybe there's like a
numbers.
word of Brandon or something that would confirm that, but
Possibly.
I would like to think so because Duralumin burns up all of your metals in one big push.
But because we're not in the spoiler section yet, so I'm not going to get. Sorry,
I think the
I got
counter
into
to
the
that
weeds
would
on
be
that
you'd
one.
need to have an anchor that was heavy enough to support whatever it is you wanted to push, right?
Yeah.
I like Kay's
Yes.
thing. I was just bringing it up because going off of how good Vin's push was when she saved Breeze, like those guys should all be puddles of goo on the walls. I really
It's
like how
morbid.
this kind of shows Vin as Kelsier.
Especially with some of
And-
the imagery of just her like killing a bunch of guys with a belt buckle and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my only other thing is becoming a weapon basically means everyone dies, including yourself. And that's it of my spoiler-free notes. Do we have anything else for this section, set of chapters?
I don't know. I pretty much covered all that I had for me in the summary that I did.
Okay, then. Well, thank you so much for sticking around so far into this episode. We're going to go into the spoiler section now. We highly recommend that if you have not read this book, the entire series, or potentially the entire Cosmere, you stop here because it's likely we will talk about everything and anything. However, if you are up to date on the story, feel free to stick around. It's likely we'll bring up details you may have forgotten or plot threads that are still yet to come. Please be sure to subscribe, leave a like, star, heart, whatever it is on this video or audio, and don't be afraid to comment your own thoughts and predictions. We would love to hear from you. But if this is where we leave you, then my name is Reader, and I have been joined by Swiggity Swoo.
Space madness.
John.
He ate my horse!
And Kay.
Have a good one.
And this has been Cosmere Connections. And we're back! Okay, so let's go all the way back to chapter 39. 39? 39.
Oh, before we do, real quick, I just wanted to finish the thought that I was starting before about Duralumin and burning other metals. I don't necessarily think that it would give you more power to burn more metal at any given time, because the metal itself is not what is creating the investiture. It's just the gateway to the investiture. So having more of it doesn't necessarily mean you get more power.
Would it
But I like
instead make your Duralumin blast last longer then?
No, because the Duralumin uses everything in 1 second, basically. It uses up all the investiture in one thing. Now, if somebody was like a Duralumin savant, maybe they could figure out how to make Duralumin last longer. But...
maybe.
I don't know how... You would think that... That's weird. Because you would think that the size would either depend on how long you can use it or how strong it is.
Right, because normally consuming more of a metal gives you a larger reservoir that you can burn for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have Sazed and Kelsier who said that the level is peaked out. It's just a matter of how long it is. We have
Where
that.
did they talk about
Empire,
that?
The Final Empire. When Vin asks which is stronger, Feruchemy or Allomancy. And Kelsier says Allomancy gives you complete power, but you only have it for as long as that is. Well, Feruchemy can have unlimited amount of time, but it's limited to how much they store.
Right, but they didn't know about Duralumin at that point. One.
Yes.
And
so I would.
Two.
So I would guess. I guess it would be how long you would be able to burn it, equivalates how much you can get out of it with Duralumin.
There's only one man who knows the answer for sure.
Okay, you're gonna go see him at DragonSteelCon, right?
That's the question. Does burning a larger reservoir of metals with Duralumin cause a bigger reaction, a bigger elementic
push
outpouring?
So does does a larger
reserve?
That's what I'm looking up to.
Reserve of a metal cause the Duralumin to last longer?
Are you looking it up or are you writing it down?
I'm writing it down.
Okay.
This is also where I wrote, like, is Vin's sister her twin?
Oh. Kay will either approve or disprove that headcanon. And we'll
Listen,
make a
I do
special
wanna
note of
know.
it. I'll be
just wanna know.
sure. I'll be sure to put in the description of that episode. Kay later found out. I'll be sure to put that in. But let's go back to chapter 39,
Yes.
where we've got
we can do that
Strath
now.
and Penrod and Zane, in which, not very much spoiler. I like how we've got the first instance of maybe there could be an emperor and you're the king of Luthadel, but you report to me, which is kind of how things go. And then I do gotta wonder, what is the ratio of Atium that was sent back to Luthadel?
I was curious about that as well.
Because it's got to be enough for that. Strath
a-
thinks. Sorry.
It was a very small percentage because it was only enough to have it be in circulation because essentially it was pulled out before Straff even knew that it was like being like essentially they would pull the metal out of the geodes and then put the geodes in the like train to go to Luthadel.
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, like, so there's got to be enough Atium for Strath to think that the Lord Ruler has a pool of it, for him to give it out to nobles. But we saw a crap ton in Hero of Ages. But we also know that he has how many people working, so there should be, even like a number situation, the amount of people digging up Atium should not correlate to how much is being sent. Even if it is like 500 beads a day, that's like a couple thousand, which is a lot. But if we're seeing that there's a couple of thousand probably done every day, but only 50 to 500.
I don't think there's that many geodes found every day.
Well, how
I'm thinking we're talking in the order of tens.
But then that would mean like, so we've got to calculate the fact that there's hundreds of people working at the pits, right?
Right, and they're each expected to get one geode a week.
True. So I guess that would mean, when does Straff pick up the Atium? Okay, this is getting into nowhere though.
The point is, Straff was in charge of mining the Atium, right? So he knows how many geodes were harvested, and he knows how many he gave to the Lord Ruler, and he has some idea of how many the Lord Ruler sold to the nobility, because he was himself a noble, so he was able to buy an allotment, right? So he has some idea of what that ratio would be, and so he should have, therefore, some idea of what the stockpile should look like.
That's the interesting part, right?
Yeah.
How much Atium is there out there?
Yeah,
Well,
and it's a lot.
I would say roughly 50 stomachs full.
And then my other comment was, is Zane timing Straff's withdrawals?
Yes.
That was what we saw?
Yeah.
How do you time a withdrawal that well?
Well, it's that, like, it's, okay, it's been about this amount of time, so he should be feeling the symptoms.
So he didn't even need to be feeling symptoms. All Zane had to do was make him think he was poisoned, and then Straff would, wait, this isn't how I normally am, even though that is kind of his new normal.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing of like, it's like the placebo, you know. He was probably feeling a little bit sick, but once Zane mentioned it, it's like, oh no, you're right.
Yeah.
This is bad.
So, anything else for 39 then?
I guess I just don't really, I never really understood the Zane poisoning Straff thing. Like, I don't really understand why he does it. And
It's mostly just because Amaranta wants to do it. He doesn't, I don't think Zane really cares about killing Straff, honestly.
was there like a conversation with Emerita later or something?
Yeah,
We
because Amaranta is the one who's been poisoning Straff.
well, not
Right.
poisoning in a
Well,
sense.
yes, poisoning. Because she's been feeding him doses of a poison and gotten him addicted to it.
Yeah,
And she's also the antidote maker.
Mhm.
yeah. But it's like saying tobacco is a poison, which
Tobacco
technically
is a poison, so is
it is a poison.
alcohol.
I guess that's not a good
A
comparison. But
delicious
it's
poison.
yeah.
It's like coffee.
Coffee is also a poison.
It's Pepsi, by the
What?
way. I'm not an alcoholic.
Okay. Let's move on to 40. If Pepsi's getting tossed into this, we need to move on. So I didn't know if this was a spoiler or not, but why would Vin see Elend's reaction as a betrayal? Because Reen literally says he's betraying you, which is ruin.
So
But all he is reacting. Sorry.
right, that's exactly it. That reaction is a signifier that he's going to leave in her mind.
Mhm.
And in her mind, anyone leaving is a betrayal.
Is it also that ruin is influencing her emotions as well?
He's definitely playing on that little heartstring, but yeah.
Ah, okay.
A little side note on Duralumin. I just read a thing on the 17th shard that apparently if a surge binder was spiked with a Duralumin spike, they could use Duralumin to get a surge in the power of their surge binding, for example.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. I wonder how Duralumin then would affect like Awakening or other breath-based magics.
Probably can do more for less breath.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that's how Azure made her sword.
Ooh. That'd be cool.
I don't know, because I don't know if Azure would want to be spiked, because then that would open her up to.
Well, maybe she wasn't spiked, but they got microburst or something.
Yeah,
I wonder if the spikes work on other planets.
they do. And Sanderson has said that someone could theoretically discover hemalurgy on another planet that does not have the influence of ruin.
Whoa.
I think it would be a great
Because-
story.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just think it would be a great story if just like randomly we started hearing tales of people with holes in their chests, and we know the horror that is, but they have no concept of what hemalurgy is.
Could happen.
But back to Mistborn. We've got Set's men that Zane claims are his aren't actually his, and or at least that's what Kay says. I have no memory otherwise, but I trust her. I trust her memory. And do we actually believe Zane in his I don't care for Elend, I've got no hate against him?
Well,
No, he's totally playing on Vin for that.
Oh, there's
Really?
resentment.
Oh yeah, he's totally trying to get her to trust him so that she'll take the Atium bead.
I think he's trying to get her to trust him, but I honestly don't really think that Zane holds any resentment to Elend.
I don't think he gives a flying fig about Elend, one way or the other.
Exactly.
He's
I don't
just
think
using it
he's-
as a ploy to get her to trust him.
Exactly. I don't think he really hates Elend. I don't think he cares about him at all. I don't think he resents him for the life I could have had. I think Zane was telling the truth there.
You think so? Because I get the impression that he is kind of both-minded. He has kind of both minds about it. Like, he is proud of himself for being such a competent warrior and being so hard as an individual, but also, like, I don't know, he has a crush on Vin, and he must hate that Elend has everything he didn't have.
I think the Vin thing is, well, do we think he has a crush on Vin, or does he just want Vin because Ruin doesn't tell him
I think
to
he
kill her?
sees Vin as like his savior in a way.
Mhm.
Um,
he also, I think, kind of sees her as his. Like, in a very big way. He sees her as a thing, a possession, something that he can go and get, and it will make him whatever he thinks. But
Because he needs to be. Sorry.
Definitely, he thinks that she is his to
Right.
claim. Yeah.
Because he sees himself as Kelsier 2.0.
But he also sees her as like what he wants her to be, not what she is. As just like, yeah, she's crazy and she's just as strong as me, and we should rule the world together.
I don't think he has any interest, any love for Vin, really. I think he sees her as different because Ruin doesn't say to kill her. I think, yeah, you're right that maybe she is maybe in his own weird mindset, like his opportunity.
Well, he tells her when they finally, fight that she was his basically savior when she was around. The voices stopped, all that stuff. So he puts her on a sort of deific pedestal, and he thinks that it's his right to go get that.
Well, it could be the same way as somebody having like a good luck charm. The crystals you get that stop headaches.
Yeah, probably the same level of effectiveness. It's all in the mind of the user, which we know Zane is a little broken there.
I was going to say we should talk about all the ways you can kill a Kandra, but I do think we're running a little low on time. So let's move on to the big one.
Can you put him into a song?
Not this time.
There's acid and fire, and that's about it. Doo-da, doo-da.
There we go. That's it.
I expect a full song next week.
Oh, dude, no, you don't want me to try and do that. No, Swiggity, songs are your department, bro.
You can either do it like
you have to perform it.
You can do it like the Animaniacs or like the Sons of Panzam.
The Animaniacs was kind of what I was going for just there, but there's only 2 things on the list, so
yeah.
Well, 3: starvation.
True.
Acid and fire and starvation.
And removing spikes.
Could you break?
Yeah, that's not really killing them. That's more of
you kill the Kandra. You kill them.
But
no,
if you put the spikes back in, then they're fine.
Yeah, it's more like putting them into a sort of coma-ish.
Yeah.
True. Okay, but anything else for?
I kind of thought if their spikes were removed for a certain period of time, they start to lose it, kind of like the metal mines.
They lose their memories.
Which is why I was saying they lose themselves. Anything else for 40 though? Before we get on to the big one. Nope. Okay, 41. This is where we've got all the fun Ruin has changed things. Kay, do you have the list out, or do you want me to read it?
Reader, go ahead and go through. You did all of that work. I'm going to let you go ahead and read through it, because you did all of the work to find all of the things.
I'm glad somebody did, because I did not want anything to do with that. I'm like, no.
So the very first thing Sazed read is from chapter 6. It changes afraid of a doom worse even than the deepness to afraid of a doom brought by the deepness. And then the epigraphs from 53 to 59, from chapters 53 to 59, Ruin changes Elendi doesn't know that he has been deceived, that we've all been deceived, and he will not listen to me now, to Elendi won't know that he has been deceived, in reference to Rashek. Ruin changes I have instructed the lad to kill Elendi to I have instructed the lad to kill my former friend. I don't get that one.
To make it seem more like Elendi was becoming less trustworthy or something.
Maybe.
Because they were talking about how, Elendi doesn't seem like the type you would want to send Rashek after.
Maybe. That just feels weird. Maybe there's something I missed that we'll come across later, but...
Oh, I feel like it it casts doubt on Elendi having been the hero because he doesn't actually match the prophecies.
Mm.
Because the whole point is that Ruin is trying to get Vin to think that she's the hero now. So in order to do that, he has to make it more clear that Elendi wasn't really the hero in the first place.
Okay. Ruin changes for he must not be allowed to release the thing that is imprisoned there to he must not take the power for himself. Probably the most blatant, obvious one. And then you've got the passage about Elending being a good man. That is straight from the epilogue. We don't actually have that in any of the epigraphs. And then the one thing still reads announcer. It does not yet read Holy First Witness.
Right.
Wait, what's
that was
this
all
now?
of... One of the things Sazed reads says, they named me the announcer, the one who foresees the hero, or something. But later somebody calls Sazed Holy First Witness, and then Ruin changes it to read, they called me Holy First Witness, the person who foresaw the hero of ages.
And that's when, the first time through, I realized things were being changed.
And that's also when Sazed realizes that something is off.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like,
Which is
why didn't I notice that before?
probably why I realized it at that point, because it became obvious. They spelled it out for me.
And then my only other note for that chapter is Elend, when Elend opens up his closet, I just kept thinking, Cess son Travallo wore white the day he was to kill a king.
Oh,
Elend Ventura wore white the day he was to be kingly.
The day he was to kill a Koloss.
Yeah.
Yes. God.
Elend Ventura wore white the day he was to kill a Koloss and stab his old friend.
I love that Vin
Only a little.
found out she was Mistborn and became badass, and Elend became badass and then became Mistborn.
That's true.
Like he had his rise before even
Yeah.
getting power.
He had his arc already.
Yeah.
I love it. Anything else for 41? Okay, great. 42. I think I had a note, but I don't know what happened to it.
Which one was
What's
42
my wrong?
again?
this was
42 is-
John.
42 was
no,
mine.
this was Reader's. Sorry. I keep thinking it was John's because it had Koloss in it, and I know how much John loves Koloss.
I
was
totally.
It's
surprised.
confusing me too.
When I was listening to it, like, I took chapters 39 and 40 because I was like, oh, cool, we get to hear about, like, how the Kandra work. And then I got to 42 and I was like, no, I need to change this. And I was like, and then it got to the part where Elend actually, like, has his moment of glory, and I was like, I can't take that away from Reader.
Well, thank
He's
you.
earned it.
I was going to give a shout out. I actually went to check. That is not human. We have not met him yet. I'll be sure that when we
Correct.
get to him, you can have that one.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
appreciate that. Thank you.
That was my note. It was, we saw that the Koloss are now wearing clothes and that some of Yastis's guards are missing. Do we think that they were spiked or that and got turned into Koloss?
I think
Almost
they
certainly.
yeah.
And that the Koloss wearing clothes are the guards?
No, I
No.
think the Koloss wearing clothes are the people from the town that they raided.
I think it
Probably.
would...
But I think the Koloss in general looted the town, and now that they're not so tightly under the control of someone who's not Ruin, they're starting to remember, oh yeah, we're not a separate thing. We are humans. And
I
so
just
they
think...
start acting like humans with the looted clothing.
Yeah. I just think it would be a nice little detail if, like, you see some of the armor or the clothing the guards were wearing maybe stretched or underneath.
Yeah.
Like, as a little
That would be
detail.
cool. Yeah. Also, it's that they are reusing the spikes now. They've started reusing their spikes, which allows the Koloss to retain more of their humanity after each spiking, which is why
'Cause-
they're also coming to more, because previously when the Lord Ruler was around, he gave the Koloss new spikes every time that he wanted
more.
them, that they wanted more Koloss. He would give them new spikes.
That's cool.
As a way to...
It kind of retains a little bit of their memories, a little bit of their humanity.
But it makes me wonder if those spikes are the spikes, if they were created from just like normal people,
Yes.
not necessarily Allomancers. Yeah, because they would have to be, or there wouldn't be any Allomancers left.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
they were just created from normal people.
But what happened? What do we think happened to the spikes that the Lord Ruler took? Did he destroy them?
He
What
didn't
happened?
take... I don't...
They were in the Conventicle of Saren. All those bloody spikes down there?
No, those
Those
were the
were-
Inquisitors experimenting, trying to find new bind points.
But if the
Oh,
Lord,
that's right, yeah.
but if the Lord Ruler wasn't allowing the Koloss to make new Koloss, and he was always giving them new spikes to basically prevent them from gaining
He
sentience,
probably, like, melted
did he
them
just down
and made
take
them
them
into...
home, melt them down, and turn them into boxings?
Maybe that's what they made the spike way out of.
Mhm.
Koloss spikes.
I would guess that they just got, like, melted down and made into new spikes.
See, I don't think
Well-
they could get made into new spikes because wouldn't the metal still be invested?
That's the question. If heat destroys investiture, then maybe, but I don't see any reason to believe that.
Anything else for
So-
42 then? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't have
44.
anything.
No worries. 43. Zane says Demus is the spy because that is likely what Tensoon reported last, or to be the most likely one.
Mm.
And Tensoon is probably trying to warn Min about Zane as well as the ATM bead.
Oh yeah, what's the deal with the ATM bead? Is that like aluminum?
It is.
It's
It's
lead
a thin coat of ATM
over
around...
a ball of lead.
Oh, what happens if you burn lead?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So it's just
It's like
poison.
silver.
It's
Just give her lead poisoning.
Essentially.
well, no, it's a trap. It's to get her to think she has atium. Use that little tiny flash of it that's on the outside, and then when Zane sees that, he knows he can go kill her at his leisure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
definitely
just
a
the
trap.
conceit of thinking she has ATM.
Right.
It's like if you were to perfectly dunk like a strawberry into chocolate and then remove the strawberry and replace it with like something else.
Right.
You would think it's a strawberry, right?
Well, it's
but
like
it
plated. I get that. Like a lot of stuff is plated. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff is gold plated, but not really gold.
Mhm.
That's so devious, though. I
Right.
hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Zane is he's the worst. He's the most toxic guy in the Mistborn trilogy.
He's very manipulative and gaslighting. And then my only other note is a question of how much ATM did Zane have to waste on this fight? Because
Zane has a lot of ATM.
Straff probably had a lot. He thought he could dose it out. It was an addiction.
Mhm.
Right. And Zane, being smarter than everyone gives him credit for, has been saving it up.
No
Mhm.
wonder Zane
There's-
always walks confidently or wherever he goes.
I have 20 minutes of atium in my gut.
What?
There's nothing.
I don't even want to know how much ATM that is. That has got to be ridiculous.
Well, here's
Well,
the
if
question.
one large bead
It's
gives
2
you 2
minutes.
minutes, that'd be 10 large beads.
That's just like
So, that's like
math.
a can of atium.
I would think that's more than a can of ATM. I would think that's like
Gotta have it size.
I'll think okay, if we're doing the chocolate strawberry thing again, it's like a dozen strawberry chocolates all in your stomach at once.
Yeah. They didn't give us a very accurate description of how big
No.
of a bead that was. They just
No,
said it
they
was
didn't.
large.
Yeah.
So, question. So, I was gonna say is, Damn it, I lost it.
It's a night for that.
Yeah,
It's like the third time that's happened.
Yep.
There's nothing on Coppermind about that table. I checked.
Ah, that's too bad.
Because they had to get it up there somehow.
Yeah, they could
And
also
they make-
carry it up the stairs.
They make a perfectly good point that there's only the elevator.
There are
They
stairs.
bring up that fact.
There are also stairs.
I mean, they could have had a couple of coin shots lay on their back underneath it and just push it up.
As visually funny as that is, they have no elevancers.
Oh, that's true.
There are
They really have
also
no
stairs.
No, we're ignoring that case. Shush. There are no stairs. There's only an elevator, and that's it.
Maybe he brought a block and tackle with him and they used pulleys to bring it up.
What if it's
Bring it
like
in through a window.
What if it's like IKEA and they just put it together?
Mm.
What's this
Probably.
L bracket for?
They-
I don't know.
They actually probably
ReRead,
can.
stop rioting.
They actually probably can break it down to some degree if he's traveling with it in like a war camp.
Yeah, wait
I
a
would-
second. He brought it with him. There is
yeah.
a wagon with a huge table sticking
Well,
out the back end.
Sabarial has wagons of furniture that he brings with him when he goes out on
Furniture
the... Yeah.
Yeah.
is not a table.
Yes, it is.
A table literally is furniture. I don't understand.
Oh wait, I was thinking. Sorry, I heard clothes. I don't know what I was thinking. I am tired. You said
Maybe
furniture,
Maybe
and I
we
went
should
to
wrap
luggage.
this up.
You said furniture, and I went to luggage. Sorry, that is completely my bad.
Yeah, table's not exactly a carry-on.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna ask. I
we go.
remembered. How long do you think that the fight was at sets? How long did that last?
10
minutes.
Okay, how long would we want it in movie time, or how long did
No,
the actual
like-
thing take?
The actual thing.
Minutes, I would say.
I
I would
think in
say
the
no more
next
than...
chapter they say it was like 13 minutes.
I would say 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
but-
I would say no more than a half hour.
Yeah. Visually, I don't care if this was on TV. I want no dialogue except for screams
No,
want it
no.
to be.
Revenge of the Sith has taught us that there is such a thing as a fight scene that's too fucking long.
True, but that's only if it's if they're going upstairs, if the camera's coming outside, and you see two Mistborn jumping.
Dude,
And then you've
they
got Vin-
floated down a river of lava.
Wait, you're saying that's? Oh, you said. No, that scene is perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. That entire end scene is
It's
amazing.
too long. It's too
No.
long.
It's the best part of the
No,
movie.
it gets bigger and better with everything, and they cut to other stuff in between the fight, don't they? Yeah, they do, because they cut to Bail Organa getting rescued by the kid, and then
It's
the kid
such
dies.
a long fight scene. They had to include intermissions, bro.
Sorry, this was my favorite when I was a kid. We watched this in the car all the time.
I mean,
I
it
have
is the
never
best of
seen
the
it.
prequel
I'm
trilogy,
so
but
sorry.
like,
I had
seriously,
never-
the fight scene between Anakin and Obi-Wan is like 25 minutes long. It's ridiculous.
It's amazing.
And
is
if you
what
look
it
at the
is.
script, it just says
Never
they fight.
seen it.
I had
I have-
seen 1 often, 3 always, and 2 like never.
It's an awesome
2
fight
is
scene,
only
though.
good if you fast forward every scene that happens on the boot.
I hate
True.
sand.
Then it's okay.
Okay, but the
Okay.
thing,
Coarse and gritty,
okay,
and it
we
gets
can-
Set,
everywhere.
set took
We can
30%
argue Star Wars
casualties
after
in
this.
less than 10 minutes. That's
There
the
you go.
line.
It was
minutes.
less than
Okay.
10 minutes.
okay.
I mean, I don't think
Speaking
they
of
have any
movies-
timers or anything. So that's just like
ready,
him.
go. But that was another thing I wanted in the scene where Vin wakes up and Zane is there. I want it to really quickly be Elend in a cloak, and then cut back to Vin, and she rubs her eyes, and then cut back, and it's Zane.
Good foreshadowing there. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. They look somewhat similar. I mean,
Okay, but how are we
they could
actually
be
getting
played by the
brothers?
same person. It's just he's got a goatee when he's Zane. Like,
Yeah, I don't think they could be played. I think they could be played by brothers. Maybe if they were played by the same person, it would have to be a lot of makeup.
dude, have you seen Captain America?
Yeah, but
Have
that's
you seen what they
completely
did
different.
to him? No, it's not.
It's still the same guy, though.
That's my point. He looks completely different before and
No,
after.
but it's still the same character. These are two different characters, though. That's
Listen,
what I'm.
as long as you get two people who look vaguely similar, like,
Brown hair. Boom.
I can't stop picturing Zane as Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's hilarious,
Okay.
but I don't know who that
I think we've gone on for too long.
yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we would like to comment in the spoiler section? No? Okay, well, that's going to be it for our show. Thank you very much for joining us on our ramblings and predictions. Please be sure to remember that there's always another connection. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Good night.
Poor helpless Alamancer was splayed out on the table that was made of ash.
Are you talking to me?
Oh, I was talking to Kay, but she's not paying attention.
Huh? Sorry. What was that? Definitely
I was
not.
making a reference to the table.
Oh.
So we are going to talk about the table for the rest of the episode.
I'm going to bring it up every chance I get. I promise.
I like our little game jokes.
Yeah. Okay. We're coming back in 3, 2,